In this video, I'm going to be mixing my new song right here on the iPad in GarageBand using the faders down mixing approach. What is that all about? Well, in this video, you're going to find out. Let's go. Hi, my name is Pete and welcome to Studio Live today, where I help you create, record and release your best music. And we're back in GarageBand on the iPad where we belong. We've got a track here. It's my new rock song and it's on less than 8 tracks. So I'm going to use an old school kind of technique here. I'm going to drop all the faders down to 0 and I'm going to treat this like I'm on an old school 8-track machine. I'm going to bring the faders up. I'm going to mix this and get my static mix down in this video. So let's dive into the iPad now and take a look. So here we are in GarageBand on my iPad. Now this is a very simple track setup here. We have a left guitar, a right guitar. These are both electric guitars and a bass guitar. Now these were all recorded using the Stark Amp Sim by Clevgrand. There's some videos up there if you want to see how I recorded these using that Amp Sim, an AUV3 plugin. Super, super cool. We've also got a virtual drummer track here that we're working on. We've then got 1, 2, 3 vocals. This one is our lead vocal. We've then got a doubled vocal and a spare vocal because you can always use a spare vocal. Now up the top here we have the original clave track that we had for this song and we have a drum track. Now those two sound a little bit like this. So that was just the original beat that we recorded to when we were tracking the guitars and the original vocals and everything else. So they can go now. They've served their purpose. So we will be deleting them. And what we're going to do with this track is we're going to do a faders down mix. Now you've probably heard me talk about this before. If you've been on this channel for a while, that I don't like to do faders down mixes. I like to actually mix as I go along. So I'll set my levels here on all of my different tracks and then I'll work with those as I'm recording, and then when I get to the mixing phase, all I need to do is go in and just do some tweaking and some adjusting, and I've pretty much got my static mix down. Well, I'm going to do something a bit different because sometimes you just want to try things a little bit differently, and maybe you've got some tracks from an old song and you're like, I don't like my mix, I just want to start from scratch. So this is going to be a start from scratch style mix here. So let's now get this set up and ready to mix here in GarageBand. All right, a little bit of housekeeping first. We've got our track here. The first thing I like to do is tap select, tap on this one, and I'm going to duplicate that because I've got What You Deserve number 2 now here, because as soon as you're going to start making some major changes on a track, you want to have a backup. Backing up is super important here. So I'm going to come in here, I'm going to delete out these tracks because I don't need them anymore. Tap, delete, tap, delete. I'm going to keep my 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 tracks. So this is just like an old 8-track machine that I'm going to be working on here. So what I now need to do is get rid of this automation. So yes, I could leave it in there, but I'm just going to go completely back to scratch. So we'll go into automation here. We will come in here, we'll turn that off. So we'll just tap on the yellow, tap on the yellow. That's all we have for automation. So we're done there. We're going to hit done. And now we've got everything back. We can adjust our faders and let's boom, 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 boom. Faders down. This is what we're talking about with a faders down mix. We now have absolutely nothing here in our track. And what we're going to now do is we're going to dial everything up. The benefit of this is if things are too loud, if things aren't mixed right, this lets you bring them up softly. And you may have heard me say this before, but what a lot of folks do is that they mix too loud. They record a track, they record a second track, a third track, a fourth track, and by the time they're like 4 or 5 tracks in, everything is too loud. Everything's like way up here, and then your mix is just sounding really loud. So what we want to do is bring it all down, and let's show you how we can bring everything in and get a nice balanced static mix here in GarageBand. So it's 100% personal choice here, but I like to bring in my drums first. So what we're going to do is we're going to solo in each instrument as we mix it in, and by the end of this mix, we're going to have all these instruments back in our mix. So let's come in and take a listen to our drums here. So we'll just come to the start of our drums and hit play, and dial those up. Now what you can hear there is they're already pretty loud, and what a lot of folks will do is that they'll have their drums like this and they'll hit play, But look what's happening on that drum. Like it's too loud. Like I know it sounds cool and yeah, you want things to be cracking and pumping, but I promise you, if you start mixing at lower volumes, especially here in GarageBand, it's going to pay dividends for you. So we're going to drive these drums all the way down here, and let's just come to this section and hit play. And just gently bring these up. And to start with, I do want my drums around 50%. And again, people think this is too soft and too quiet. I promise you it's going to work out. So we've got our drums in there at about 50%. Let's bring in our bass, because drums and bass just sound cool, right? There's a reason why it's called drum and bass. Let's bring in the bass and we'll hit play. Let's dial up our bass. So we're getting our drum and our bass sitting nicely together there in the mix. Let's just make sure that they sound okay. That's pretty cool. Now, we already have a little bit. So when I say faders down, we still do have some effects on here. So if I go into my drums, I've got my compression. I go plugins and EQ. I've already got a compressor on here, hitting it, reasonably hard here. So I might need to just dial this back a little bit. And again, you're going to look at these. You're going to look at these little green dots here and the green lines and say, that's not enough, Pete. But again, stay with me. We're going to do this. All right, let's bring in some guitars because we're going to do this quite quickly here. We're going to bring in my left guitar. So if you're listening in stereo, you'll hear this over on the left, because if I go to my panning section here, I'm panned hard left on this first guitar. So we're going to bring this one in softly and see what this does here. So there's going to be some EQing that we need to do with this guitar, right? So we're going to leave that for a future video, but we're getting a static mix dialed in here. Maybe we'll tweak a bit of EQ as we go along. So there's our left guitar. Let's come down to our right guitar. We're going to turn that one on. We're panned to the right now, and we'll bring this right guitar into the mix. So let's just come back to a section here where we got everything pumping and hit play and bring up our right guitar. And what you're hearing there and what you're seeing there is that these aren't at the same levels that I had before I started my static mix here again using the faders down approach. So this is a good thing. This might give us a better static mix. Now we've got to bring the vocals back in. Vocals are super important here. So let's bring in my main vocal here and let's see if we can blend this sucker in here and make it sit with our guitars, our bass, and our drums. We'll hit play. Careful. You just might get what you deserve. All right, let's find a better place here where I start shrieking and shouting a little bit more, down about here. You better watch out. You better get down on your knees and pray. 'Cause if you're not too careful, one day you get what you deserve. So my biggest problem with mixing is I mix my vocals too loud. So I need to dial this back. Every time I dial in vocals, I go, okay, that's about what Pete thinks, and then we dial it back a notch. And let's play it again here now. You better watch out. You better get down on your knees and pray. 'Cause if you're not too careful. And the thing here is that, yeah, we got a little bit of effects on here, but what we're going to now bring in is our vocal double. So let's grab our vocal double. So it's this one here, and we'll start dialing this one in. And this will give us a little bit of additional volume, a little bit more of a fuller sound. If you want to learn about vocal doubles, check out the link up there down in the description. I talk all about vocal doubles. So we'll bring our double in here. Let's just find a spot here. Throw away what others need. You cause pain while others bleed out. You better watch watch out for what you wish for. So we might need a little bit more vocal. Like, you tell me, like, let me know in the comments, am I giving it too much, too little vocal? Because I'm really like slightly paranoid now that I'm pushing too much vocal in here. But with the vocal double, in fact, if we unsolo everything but the vocals, let's just have a listen. Now, you will have noticed that I'm building this track up. I'm not going in and doing the volume based on each individual track, because that's not going to help you with your overall mix, because mixing is all about all the instruments. It's not about one instrument isolated by itself. We want to hear them all together. But for now, let's just listen to these vocals and see if I've got this double mix in properly. Let's hit play. Or, 'cause if you're not too careful, you just might get what you deserve. So that's sounding pretty cool, yeah, because we've got the two different vocals in there. If we just have the one, let's just play that little part again with just one vocal. 'Cause if you're not too careful. If we bring the second vocal in, you just might get what you deserve. And because it's a second take of the same lead vocal, you're getting some slight variations in there that are helping you with the pitch. It's if you're a little bit off on the notes, it's going to help you out. And also, it's going to just add some thickness to your vocal. It's going to make it sound more present and more upfront. So let's bring everything back into the mix here. We'll bring our guitars, our bass in. And let's go towards the end of the track, because this is where it sort of starts getting a bit louder. And let's see what our static mix is looking like. Let's just play with some of these levels and see if we can get this static mix working. Cash, no cash, big debt, no stash, bankrupt, foreclosed, no friends, no hope. You better watch out, or you'll get just what you deserve. You better watch out now, or you'll get what you deserve. So I think that's actually sitting about right. So you would have been looking at that and going, like, look at the top there. Look at the master meter there. We didn't hit yellow, we didn't hit red. That's the key thing here. The biggest mistake I see folks make when they're starting out with GarageBand is that they mix too loud. A little bit like Back to the Future with Huey Lewis. It's like just too darn loud. We don't want it too darn loud. So let's just play another section here and just watch the meter at the top and see what that one's doing. Throw away what others need. You cause pain while others bleed out. You better watch out. So at our loudest sections, we're just pushing into that yellow. We're not in the orange, we're not in the red in that master meter. And that's going to really help us have enough headroom for the final mix, for all of the things that we're going to do here, and for our mastering. So if you're interested in those, hang around here on the channel, because we'll be covering those in a future video. But I'm pretty happy with this static mix for now. So I'm going to go away and start playing with this and getting this ready for its final mix. So there you go, our mix is starting to come together here, and in the very next video here on Studio Live today, we will be completing the final mix of this track, so stay tuned for that one. In fact, if you're in the future, it may already be linked in one of those videos down below. Subscribe to the channel by clicking or tapping on the Studio Live Today icon, and I will see you on the next video.